So we go again. This is number 73, the Darkness Light GodCast. Welcome back. If you're joining me again, Jim McFadyen here in the Vortex Centre for Wellbeing. And it's a new year. This is 2026. Today is the 15th of January. Best wishes to you and yours for the year ahead. And I've been kind of holding this one back until the time was right. During the Christmas period, and this is all on the back of the work I've been doing myself over the last almost a couple of months now. This new wave of information that's coming through, new wave of inspiration that's coming through me. There's been a bit of a shift very recently, thanks to the work that I've been doing myself. All this new, the new stuff. And the new, I suppose, same direction, but in a different way, and the way that it's coming through has been a bit of a jump for me. It's been a massive shift, and it's something that I'm really grateful for, and feeling very blessed at the minute, which just came on the back of some really, intentional work, a lot of change for myself. Anybody who followed closely last year will know that it was a difficult year, again on the back of many difficult years. And towards the end of the year, making some changes, which really, as always, with human beings, it comes after a wee bit of pain and suffering. And got to the point where I'd really kind of had enough, and the decision was made to, okay, so what do I need to do? The last couple of years I've been, teaching and documenting, I suppose, what I've learned over the last, it's been 26, 27 years, it's 29 years now. That I started this journey, this intentional journey of self-discovery, self-realisation. And the last couple of years, the programme, the information that I'd gathered, the amount of different lessons and teachers and ways of doing things with this intentional life, the way that I brought it into my own life, and then I suppose over the last probably nearly 10 years now, since 2016, this building, this vehicle opened, the Vortex, with the intention to try and help other people. Simply by sharing the stuff that I was doing and the stuff that I had done for myself, in the, I suppose, the fields of mental health and physical well-being and self-reliance, personal development I began with, but very quickly it turned into spiritual development. And when I met Michael and Fern, it must be going on, what's that, three and a bit years now, and their question in terms of, what are you going to do with this? And when I discovered their skill set, and the kind of partnership that we formed, and then my expansion in terms of, right, okay, so what is it that I actually do, and then documenting all that, getting it out in my head and out in my heart, and putting it down on paper, and really creating the programme for the first time, the stuff that I do, the stuff that I teach, and trying to make sense of the way, because it always just came through me. But then how do you make that accessible and available so that anybody can learn it? So the last couple of years were really about that, and over the course of that journey, and it probably started before that, I stopped kind of looking after myself in terms of the way that I know that I need to, if I'm going to work and if this is going to work. The tools and techniques that I teach within the programme, I teach selfishness, I teach self-reliance that's based on being selfish, tending to the self, the higher self first and foremost. It's absolutely spiritual work with it, the intention to reconnect and to remember that divinity that we, every single one of us, carry inside of us. The intention is enlightenment. Enlightenment just meaning that direct experience of the divinity, that essence of God, for want of a better word, that we carry inside us. That's what I discovered, after 18 years of my own work. And those first 18 years were incredible. I wasn't trying to give it to anybody, wasn't really trying to help anybody. I was really just being very, very selfish in getting it for myself. I was in a bubble, after almost losing my life in 1996, I went into a bubble of really self-discovery. My intention was enlightenment. My intention was to discover something that I knew had to be true. Because I'd heard about, I'd felt it to begin with, and then I'd heard some of my teachers talking about it, people like Wayne Dyer and even Deepak Chopra back in the day, and Ram Dass, and different spiritual teachers were talking about the divinity that we carry, this divine power. So it was a massive shift and a massive change for me from the way that I grew up in organised religion and believing that God was external to you. And even the whole concept, of heaven and hell and, this world and the next world and all that kind of stuff, everything changed. And after 18 years, every single day, no stone unturned, changing everything, my diet, my environment, the people I was spending time with, the input in terms of learning intentionally, growing and expanding and travelling a fair bit of the world, learning from some of the most fantastic teachers, even to this day, some of them are still alive. But then, after 18 years of every single day sitting in meditation, sometimes, every single day it was multiple hours a day, so it'd be morning and night most days, but sometimes it'd be 4, 5, 6 hours a day. Many times, during the night, my day would start between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, which is still the case. That's been, every single day since this began, really. Getting up in those quiet times and sitting in silence and going inside and to begin with healing myself, all the stuff that I'd been through and from childhood and right through when I almost lost my life. And then, going inside and leaving the external world and going into the internal world. Learning how to get out of my head and to reconnect back into my heart and then eventually back into my soul. And the answers and the solutions that came through that, and the inspiration and the realizations that came through that, through direct experience, to the point where eventually I achieved that goal, which is to discover the real truth that we are divine eternal beings. The journey of the soul, and who you really are is something very different from what you're told in soul growing up. So self-discovery, the realisation that, I carry it inside of me, and then the desire to then take it to the world, that's what really came about after probably around about 18 years, it feels like, of this work. And then for the last 10 years, I've been really kind of, pay it forward and help people. When you really get it for yourself and you really discover it, and you know that it must be in everybody, and you can see the amount of people that are suffering and struggling. With many of the things that I did in my life, the mental health challenges and the things that trip us up, things like chronic stress and the inability to sleep, just generally feeling no the best, and in fact a lot of the times really pretty shite, if I'm honest, and knowing that there must be a different way of living and being, and then discovering what that was, and then living from that place for an extended period of time. Once I opened the centre and I really had it for myself, then a bit of that definitely went away. You kind of need to give a bit of that up when your attention goes on to other people, and that's a natural progression. That's a natural step that anybody who does this kind of work, when you hear anybody talking about it, then it's a big part of it, and that can be challenging, and it has been challenging in many different ways. It cost me my own health and well-being many times, and in particular over the last couple of years. Where when the amount of effort and time and just my life force that I put into creating the programme and the expansion, the uncomfortable expansion, things like this, like doing videos and being able to speak freely from my heart, the posts that I was doing online, talking about the stuff that I was talking about God and talking about spirituality and talking about the answers and the solutions, all different stages of my own journey. I've always just tried to be truthful and explain where I'm at, and the intention with that is to help people realise that if I can get it, me growing up as a layman, uneducated in terms of schooling, very much educated, self-education when I started to get on about this work. But if I can get it, then anybody can get it. That was one of the biggest things that came through for me when I really got it, when I experienced that first enlightenment, I call it, when I became everything. Sitting in meditation, I became the field, I became consciousness, I became the divine, like universal consciousness. That's what it felt like. So if it's in me, then it must be in everybody, and it fixed every single thing within me, the stuff that can't be fixed, the stuff that therapies and medications and doctors and all the stuff that we see in this world that's trying to help people get beyond the challenges that they're facing on any front. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, the different traumas and decimations in some cases that people go through. I've been through almost all of them, I would say. There's no many that I've missed in this lifetime at different stages. So what it did for me and how it enabled me to transcend and literally become a new human being, a different human being, where the stuff that I'd been carrying up to that point, the dis-ease and the hurt and the pain and the suffering and the trauma, to be living in that, the chronic stress and just like literal torture at points, where you can't escape, you're from your own skin almost, you can't escape your own being, and it's not the best places. So to get beyond that and to transcend that and to get out the other side of that and experience something way greater than that, and the impact that had on me, when I came back for that first time, and my heart burst wide open, and you feel how you're able to feel it, and I believe how you're supposed to feel as human beings, and you start to realise and you start to see through so many different things, and then you start to understand that there are people within this world that know that that's how it's meant to be, and some would say that perhaps that many of them are trying to suppress that so that we, the ignorant ones, the working classes and the lower levels, as they would call it, of society, don't understand or ever get access to that power. And for me, when I came back, the focus went from me and getting it for myself, and then the natural step was to, right, okay, how can I give this to people? And never really had a teacher with any of that stuff. I was learning with the books and the audio recordings, and I travelled a bit of the world seeing different teachers, but the spirituality stuff was really done through self-practice. I believe you can only really teach from your own experience. The great saying that you can't buy experience is so profound. And every single thing that I share and I teach now comes from what I've been through, and I know that you can hear the truth in that when I speak and I talk about my truth. There's never any need or reason to exaggerate it, or to embellish it, or to try and dress it up. I see so often, and I hear so often with the people run about me, the amount of young coaches just now in their early 20s that have been doing this, normally a lot of them since COVID, so they've maybe got 2, 3, 4 years if they're lucky under their belt, and they're experts now, they've got it dialed in, and it's like so limited, and I can see it in them when they're talking. But for me now, in my 29th year, the first 18 to probably 20 was really just like nobody knew about it. I was just getting it for myself, and it's been since the Vortex Open, 2016 that was, where I started to get to the point where I felt like I'd mastered myself, which means that I really knew who I was. I knew that divinity that was inside me. I experienced the real divine essence. No gym, no this physical vehicle you see sitting in front of you talking at the camera, but the bit that's divine, the bit that can never die, the bit that's eternal. When I discovered that, and I knew that was the real kind of truth of who I was, the kind of higher self, the true self, then at that point, then the intention was to try and give it on to other people, to pass it on, to help them, with the struggles and the strains and the tribulations of this world that I'd been through in my own way, and really just kind of sharing what I'd done to try and help people. And that wasn't easy, and it's not been easy. And as I mentioned, it's definitely at certain points, even as last year, last year a couple of times, this time probably maybe 14, 15 months ago, so going into probably end of 2024, and really kind of properly burnt out, with the desire to help people, and putting the programme together and doing all the recordings and the Scottish tour and trying to take it to the world and really try to give it to people, which isn't easy. I always felt that unless you've got really strong reasons for getting on about this work, which is normally pain, suffering, like decimation, broken, that's normally where people find us and really understand what it is that I'm doing. For many years at the beginning, I was probably seen as the cold water guy. I was one of the first people in the country to teach cold exposure. That started back in 2016, 17 for me. Before it became a thing, went and trained with Wim Hof, and I was teaching breath work, and I was teaching, relaxation and a wee bit of kind of meditation, but it's more about how to manage your nervous system, how to manage your day-to-day life, how to sleep a wee bit better, how to manage your mind, all that kind of stuff. And the journey that I've been on with it, and the lessons that I've learned, always getting to that same bit where, it almost takes me out. Happened again twice last year. I've been sick probably 3 or 4 times over the last year. Viruses that have been taking me out for extended periods of time. At one point it was 5 or 6 weeks, again just at the end of 2024-25. Really no well for 5 or 6 weeks from the October time, almost right up to Christmas. And even that last year there, 2025, probably at least 3 times, where I had some sort of virus in my system that was, 2-3 weeks where, just no good at all. And the accumulation of, again without covering all ground, but the disease that was in and is in my physical body, and getting to a place where it was like, right, okay, so this isn't really working. What am I going to do about it? And that came to a head towards the end of last year, and really kind of had to make a decision as to what I was going to do. I'm 54 now, which doesn't sound old, but I'm 55 this year, and to think that in 15 years I'm going to be 70 is crazy, because I still feel probably 18, 19 in my heart and in my soul. I don't feel old, but understanding how quick it happens. I'm watching my dad just now, who's 82, and just how quick. Like 2 seconds ago, I was down in London with him with the family for his 40th birthday. My boy's 24 now, my son's 24, my daughter's 21. You see the pictures and you realise how quick this life experience is. And me going through the motions over the kind of second half of towards the end of the summer last year, and then getting to that place that I wasn't happy again. Then the time was really to have a really good look at myself and to decide what it was I was going to do. And then to really withdraw and retract from everything that I was doing that nobody really would have known about. I was still on the surface, I was still helping and coaching, but certainly not looking for things to do, not looking for people to help, which has been something that I've absolutely done in the past. When you're feeling so good and you're so on it, then the intention is to take it to as many people as possible. But with this work, the way that it works best is for somebody to come to you. That's the only really way that it works. Can't give this to anybody. Certainly not the speed and the level that we're operating at now. I see it within the programme members and the people that run about this every single day. The conversations we're having and the way that many of them are living, how they're living their life. It's not that it's not for everybody. It's for hardly anybody. Because of what's involved in it, and as I said, it normally takes a massive amount of pain or suffering or decimation where people get to a point where it's right, okay, like this didn't work, and it's almost cost them their life many times. So which other way do I need to do it? So it was time for a change for me. And leading into Christmas time, a whole load of contrast within, personal circumstances within our family environment, which was hugely challenging. Some of the toughest things that I've faced in my lifetime, and going through it and being able to deal with it in the way that I would have liked to have dealt with it. Again, the choice, as I talk about often. What am I going to do about it? Nobody's going to do it for me. Nothing's going to change unless I start to make some changes within myself. So the decision was made to make some drastic changes. And leading into Christmas, right up to Christmas and over the Christmas period, what a gift those. We probably had about 2.5 weeks where I was off. The Vortex was closed. My wife's business is closed. That's the only 2 weeks of the year where she's not really available. So all the staff are off and she's not on call. So there's no phone calls. And it was really just a chance to spend time together. That sacred space and the ability to go, right, okay, look, where are we? That's very difficult when you're right in the middle of it. That's very difficult when you're having to get up and do the stuff that needs done every single day. And for me, it couldn't have came at a better time because Christmas was absolutely fantastic, but then the period after it, it feels like there's a bus stop to Christmas, dealing with all the stuff that that comes with Christmas, and then once you're after Christmas, then it's right, okay, so now it's a chance to stop and a chance to really kind of see where you're at. And as always, it's a great time of year to start to have a look at what's coming up and how you intend to make your way into that new year that we're in now. So for me, this started probably sometime towards the end of November. I decided that I was going to change up everything. I decided I was going to make massive lifestyle changes. So at the time I got to the holidays at Christmas time, I was already probably 3-4 weeks into it. I called it a holistic cleanse. Where it was a complete shift in every single thing that I was doing. I've done many cleanses in the past. I've spoken about them on here in the past. I've spoken about them online. I'm within, with the community, within the Vortex, within the programme members. And the diet is normally the way you would do it. I've done so many medical medium, the cleanse to heal. So it's like a 9-day cleanse. I've done juice cleanses over the last 20 years. I've done water fasts. I've done all sorts of different cleanses. But this time, because of everything that I've just mentioned, it felt like this time was going to be very, very different. And I decided, instead of just making it in one area, I was going to overhaul every single bit of my life. And it took me probably a couple of weeks thinking about it in terms of what was going to need done. And let me tell you, because change is very difficult, especially when you really kind of don't want to do it. I've been an addict my whole life, good and bad, in so many different areas. And when you start to identify the things that have got a hold on you, and the things that are actually, holding you back or slowing you down or keeping you away from what you know is available, then the desire to change that, when you start off thinking about it, it's not pleasant, because the body likes what it knows. The body likes the kind of the normal, especially when you're comfort eating, or you're maybe doing things that you maybe shouldn't. This goes for everybody. The things that enable you to make your way through your day if it's not the best, or you're struggling if you're under stress. Depending on what you're eating or what you're drinking or whatever it is. So realising that I was going to have to make changes in the beginning, for the first couple of weeks, it was very much like creating that way with my thoughts and my feelings, feeling what it feel like. My reasons were first, why do I need to do it? And it was really a need. It wasn't a kind of, I should do it. It was like, I must do this. If I'm going to fulfil my potential, this is a must. This needs to happen. So once I made the decision, as always, they say it takes 3 days to form a habit. I've never believed that. I believe it takes a moment to form a habit. It's a decision that you're actually going to do it. And that's the power of intention. Once you intend to do something, which I did, I probably spent the best part of a couple of weeks thinking what I was going to do. And then the day that I made the decision, it was a Sunday, never forget it, sitting in meditation. It was like, right, okay, the time is now, it's time to go. And with a class on that night, the Sunday service, which is on every Sunday night, and Fern asked me during the class about the holistic cleanse, like how long I was going to do it. And my answer was, it was different in a way that I'd never given it before, because the answer I gave her was, I'm doing this forever. This is it now. This is a complete change in lifestyle. And then explaining, what I was actually going to do within the cleanse. And the decision was made. The word decision, the origin of it means to cut off. To decide means to cut off. And that decision that I made, it was like I became a different human being in that moment when I made the decision. So then it became easy. And that was now, it's going back, I'm just about to start week 8. This is Thursday the 15th of January. So it was on the Friday that I started it. So this is me just about to start week 8 of this holistic cleanse. And the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, I was really just finding my rhythm. Never really spoke about it that much. Didn't really encourage anybody to get on it with me, because it's a timing thing. You can't really give this to anybody. In the past, it's been like, we're going to do this cleanse within the community and you've got a week to prepare and get the food in. But this was one of those things, I was doing it for me. It was purely for me to fulfill my potential, to really get to that place where I knew that I was doing the best that I could. And all of the other reasons for doing it, healing myself, and that list is really long, but the desire and the intention was to really get it for myself and do it for myself first and foremost, without having any agenda as to what would come out of it. That's always a spin-off that comes off this kind of stuff. And lo and behold, the time I got to Christmas time, I was in a great place. Then I had the 2 weeks at Christmas time, having that space, and my meditations, my reconnection, back to the divine. Again, instead of having to be there for everybody else and being there for the group, I've got live meditations on every single day. There's a sacred space meditation within the Vortex. It's a Zoom room that's there at all times. If you get into it just now, there'll be people sitting in meditation during the day. I went in at 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning, and there was 10 people in, sitting in meditation. So there's always somebody. It's like a literal vortex that we have created with intention, and either silent meditation, or sometimes, I use music sometimes I listen to Joe Dispenza, one of his guided meditations, and people can choose from the bank of the recordings, all of the hundreds of hours that I've recorded over the last couple of years. They can go in and they can listen to that. And we all meet in this common space, and it's wonderful, and it's absolutely fantastic, and the benefits that I'm receiving from it, as well as the community, is just it's very difficult to explain, but for that period over Christmas, it was like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do anything unless it's for myself. I'm going to get this for myself. I'm going to really put this time into myself, the way that I used to do, the way that I was, when I was on that path of self-discovery, and nobody knew about it. I was on this devotional journey to experience enlightenment. So it was really, really selfish. And selfish is a really positive term, because for me, it's when I'm selfish and tend to myself, the way that my wife benefits, my children benefit, the dog benefits, the way the world benefits when I really get it for myself, that's the way that you make peace with that. It's not like the traditional way you'd understand being selfish and fuck everybody else. That isn't what this is. It's really like tending to the self, the higher self, and then the intention with this work is to then take it to the world always. So having that time and space for me, and then when the information and the inspiration started to come through, and the expansion started to come through, and the path started to light up in so many different ways, then getting into 2026. And then how I was going to, bring this work, after I don't need a long time to recover, because of, probably the amount of time that I put into myself and the way that I do it, the way my body has recovered, the way my mind has recovered, the way my heart has been opening up, the way my soul has been inspired, because of the time I've been putting into myself, so everybody's going to benefit in so many different ways, and me first, absolutely has been the evidence of that. And then it's feeding into my family, and then it's feeding into the community. And now, halfway through January 2026, then it's now time to express and explain what it is that I'm doing within this work, and how I intend to help the world with it. The New Year Revolution, which is what this is called, that came through just after Christmas. I was planning on doing something in January time. Last year I did it was 3 free events down at New Lanark Hotel, and it was what was it called? Was it the Reconnection? Can't mind the name. It was a free event. My mind's starting to think about too much going on in my head that I'm trying to cover with this. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was a Reconnection. The Experience. That's what it was. The Experience Live. Did loads of events leading up to Christmas online. Then we did a 3 free events down at New Lanark Hotel, and the intention was to help people in January. The intention was that people are coming off the back of January with all the fucking debt and the stress and the strain and the uncertainty and the fear of and the doom of paying the credit cards and everything that comes with that. The intention was to help people free as a gift. We did 3 big events down at New Lanark. We had between 80 and 100 people at the 3 events. Fantastic, really, really, really cool. And that was my plan. After again, it was like, right, okay, let's do something like that again. But then, instead of giving it away and really putting myself out there too quick, because of how good I was feeling, and because of how much I was enjoying my batteries getting charged, I decided not to do that and just to kind of back off. And wait and see what else there was out there. It needs to be something new all the time. If I'd done the same thing again, we'd probably get the same results. But and it wouldn't allow this new current wave that's coming through. So the idea of the revolution is very different from New Year resolution. The resolution, when you look at the definition of resolution, it means to make a choice. To either do it or not do it. So the many people, now we're sitting in January 15, how many people are still, on top of their resolutions? I know 2 or 3 people that have mentioned to me that they tried to dry January, and they caved, they couldn't make it, they folded inside, some of them inside the first couple of days. I don't know many people that drink, nobody in my inner circle, certainly within this work, I've not drank forever. Drink to me is absolute poison, it separates you from your spirit, it's a depressant, it's there for a reason, it's to put you into an altered state where things don't go too well. So drink alcohol's not in my life, and never will be ever again, it's just literal poison as far as I can see. But when you think of New Year's resolutions and dry January, and where people make this decision with this, and then they go back to work on the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th of January, and before you know it, the overwhelming reality and stress, and then it's okay, so that doesn't work. I can't do it that way, so I need to do it in a different way. And they go back to their old habits, and that's always the way when you make your decisions, based on your logical thinking mind, and you make them in with a wee bit of pain and suffering, but you don't really know how to do it properly. Then New Year's resolutions, they come and go very, very quickly. The gyms that were bursting at the seams probably 2 weeks ago, I'm pretty sure if you went back down there just now, they'd be back to the same numbers as they were, middle of October or leading up to Christmas. So resolution means to make a change, and I love the choice. I talk about the choice all the time. The ability that we have, with free will to make choices based on where you're at, when you've got awareness and you understand, how this goes together. The ability to make a different choice is fantastic. But, this year we're in just now, 2026, there's some really powerful prophecies that I've spoken about them on here before. One of them in particular from my teacher, Babaji, from the Saj Mark system, and he talks about right at the end of this month, how the changes that are going to take place within the world. He's got a series that were channeled called Whispers of the Brighter World. It was channeled through, I think she was French, the lady, and a really powerful medium in channeling it, and they verified these in loads of different ways. And I don't do rainbows and unicorns, and the fact that it's coming through Babaji, and anybody that's heard me talk about him and knows my relationship and his relationship with me, more importantly, and the role that he plays within this work, the spiritual side of this work for me, then it's not something that I'm not pulling tarot cards, I'm not looking at the stars and doing astrology, it's none of that kind of stuff. But for many, many years now, I've been watching and listening and reading and kind of thinking about, this year has been a really significant year. And it's not just coming from him, that there's different areas of the world that really indicate that at some point during this year, then the world is going to go through massive change, and we just need to look at the world, to see where it's at and to see the problems that we face. It really feels like it is time for a change. The world is broken in so many different ways. People are broken in so many different ways. The way that it's set up just now within the world, and you just need to look at the evidence. As always, you don't take my word for it, or even what they say, anybody says, or what you see on the telly. You look at and what's happening within the world. I am really fortunate because I see it in here most days. I get to get a kind of snapshot of reality and hear where people are and what they're going through, and hearing their life experiences. And then if you're feeling brave enough to have a wee look online, which I never ever really do, but it's very difficult to escape it, and you see just the literal insanity that's taking place just now. So it feels like this year it's like the world is needing a change. It feels like it's time for a change. So then, how do we do that? What is the, what's the way that you bring that in? And that's where revolution came in. Now, revolution is a really strong word, and I'm very aware of, me saying that. Revolution, when you look at the definition of that, is to overthrow, to kind of do away with the existing system, whether it's a government or whether it's an existing power. And that's not what I want in any way, shape or form. It's how do you keep, because the system that we are living in just now, you look at the way that it's set up, we are so reliant on it in so many different ways. If the current system wasn't there, then it would be absolute carnage. It would be chaos in a really short period of time. So the overthrow of the change that I do feel is required, it needs to come in a different way. And the revolution for me, when you see the revolution, there's going to be a sunlight and a burst, which is actually divine light for one of the O's. The revolution needs to take place is in the spiritual plane. The revolution needs to take place is within our hearts and our souls as human beings, where people need to, the change that needs to take place is within us, and that comes through, the direct experience of the divinity that we carry inside every single one of us. And this year and the pain and the suffering that so many people have been going through for so long, it's very evident that it doesn't work. So at that point, what is it we need to do? And unfortunately, change only takes place, when people reach a really kind of critical level where it's too difficult to go on. And at that point, it's a case of, right, okay, so look, where do we go with this? And this is where, when you look at the world and you see the challenges that we face in the world, even just the other day, looking about what's happening within America and what they're doing in terms of invading countries and talking about taking over countries and, just flexing. The American empire is absolutely, it's in free fall. So which is kind of partially terrifying, because any great, I'm not going to say great empire, because it's not, I don't know any empire, including the British or, any one of them, they normally basically became what they became because they basically went in and took, and the cost of life and the pain and the suffering that most have to go through to allow these empires to get to where they need to go, or what they had to achieve. Then, and you see that with America, certainly in my lifetime, since the 60s, 70s, 80s, I've spoken about on here before, the amount of days and years that America has been at war since their year of independence. And you look at all the different areas of the world, where they're fighting. Even just now, recently it's Venezuela, they're talking about taking over Greenland. And the world is moving in a kind of really a really forceful direction just now. It feels to me that it's moving towards war. This massive uprising that's taking place just now within the world in terms of even these conversations, the fact that I'm on here talking about this kind of stuff, the amount of people that are, because of the internet, they're not happy with the way things are going. And you look at, what do they then do? How do they suppress that? How do they stop the information? How do they stop the inspiration coming through? And that's war every single time. Any war that you look at, certainly the Great Wars, a lot of that was to do with obviously power, money, greed, but a lot of that was to do with suppression as well. And when you've got an uprising that's happening just now in terms of spiritual uprising, then the best way to deal with that is to basically put people into a state of, chaos, and war is the way to do that. So no surprise worldwide just now, certainly in the West, that, the leaders, these absolute lunatics that are controlling the current systems, whether it's in America, whether it's in this country, whether it's in Europe, the ones who are basically, trying to, assume and they're taking control just now. Freedom is becoming a thing of the past. Things like, the digital ID and, facial recognition, and even in the supermarket now. I watched an old guy yesterday in his 80s, he must have been. And the place is mobbed, and he's got to do like a self-checkout scan in Tesco's in Lanark. There's two checkouts open, but he's like, how does he, like, with his belief system and his skill set and even his like cognitive abilities to do it for himself, to get the card out, to get it through. There's a facial recognition on that as well, and I'm just watching it, I'm going, this doesn't work. The money that Tesco make, they're literally doing away with people. So when you walk in there at some point in the future, there's a matter of time before it's just machines that you're dealing with, and that's just obviously wrong in so many different ways. But the current system and the way that it's set up, for me just now, the way the leaders are driving it and how they're taking us toward, this way of living and being, the whole thing 2030 that you'll own nothing but you'll be happy. That's terrifying, to think that these 20-minute cities and, that you'll only be able to go so far. That's already happening in China just now with the whole social credit system. To think that, depending on what it says in a computer, it'll determine, where you can go and what you can buy and what you can eat and, all that kind of stuff. It's literal insanity. So the current systems, in terms of how it's set up, it's done with force, it's done with, and it's force versus ignorance, because normal people just don't know. Normal people that are going about day to day, you see them, the amount of kids now that's just normal for them to be in their phones and they live off their phones, and they live in a different way from certainly I grew up. So that's something that, that's an unnatural order and way of doing things. The way that it's set up, with these career politicians, whoever they are, you think of Donald Trump as an example. Now, I have no political persuasions whatsoever. It makes no difference to me. It was Bush before him, it was Clinton before him. In this country, the same. It doesn't matter who they are. Certainly in my lifetime, they're all the exact same. They're all join up to these privileged kind of schools. Certainly in this country, you see them going off to their private boarding schools, the top kind of Eton or whatever it is the fuck they go. And they go into this kind of system where they're trained privilege from a very young age. They are trained that they are the elite, they are the 1%. And their job within this world that's been handed down, through the families and through their traditions and through their history, is to keep as much of that as they can for themselves. And you see in America, with Donald Trump, to think of the power that man has in terms of self-gain. Somebody who's been, is it 7 times he's been bankrupt? And all the kind of slur and the slander in terms of who he is as a human being, just a piece of shit, for a better way of explaining it and expressing it, and the things that he's no doubt done in his life, and the way that he treats women, the way that he treats human beings, and to think that he's in a position where the self-gain, that he has achieved since he's been the president, and that's worldwide, that's certainly in the West anyway. Maybe get into places like Russia and maybe further afield, and maybe it's very, very different. Maybe the people have got more of there's more of an intention to serve the many as opposed to just getting it for yourself. But certainly in the West, when you see these people coming through these schools and then get into the House of Parliament, whatever it is that happens in there, then at that point, then they've got the access, to the vaults, to the money, to the different ways of doing things so that they can benefit from it. And, the privileged few, the career politicians or the career, profiteering individuals that are really in it for themselves, then obviously that doesn't work. And the evidence of that not working is because of the way that we see how many are suffering just now, how many are broken, how many are sick. Even looking at the National Health Service, and how stretched and challenged that is. When you look at the different protests on the television, it was the farmers in Ireland last week, it was the farmers in England just before. It's anywhere you look, so many people, normal, common, working class people are really getting fucked every way that you can imagine. The amount of taxes that people are paying, the amount of challenges that they face, and the opposition in terms of, even looking at the farmers, the ability that they've got to provide food, to us, and not to have it come from somewhere in the EU where, who knows how many palms are getting grazed and who knows how many people are benefiting from it. It's absolute insanity. So that whole thing needs to be changed. The entire system, in terms of who benefits from it and who it serves, that absolutely needs to be changed. I'm not saying take it away, but it needs to be done in a way that it serves the many and not just the few. That's absolutely obvious to so many people now. So that's a good thing. How to change is a wee bit different. Once you see how bad it is, then what do? Now, in the past, and this is where I have never voted, I've never believed in it, because nothing ever changes. I watched it for way back. I remember Margaret Thatcher and what she did to the the miners and all the kind of the coal pits and British Steel, what they did to that, what they did to the unions, again, suppression of the working classes and selling, all that business, abroad, and who benefited from that. So very early on I realised that it doesn't matter who was in power, it doesn't matter who was in the chair, it's the same stuff every single time. And now you can absolutely say it doesn't matter who's there. You look at America, you look at Biden before Trump, and you look at Trump before Biden, you look at Bill Clinton and what he did, Obama, the stuff that came out about Obama, the things that the stuff and just literal atrocities and war crimes that every single one of them has done. So it gets to the point it doesn't matter who's in power, so to vote somebody else in, that makes me laugh when you think it'll be okay the next election when we're able to vote somebody in and things are going to change, because nothing ever changes. It's just somebody else gets to benefit, somebody else that comes up through Eton, that comes up through another one of the fucking private schools, and then they come in and their pals come in and then all their pals start to benefit. So, again, the normal people, the working classes, the kind of, us, the worker bees, the lower levels of society, the normal people, the commoners, every single time we get fucked, so at that point, something needs to change, something different needs to happen. And with change, it's, always takes a reason. What's your reason and what's your why? That's the only way you make change. That's how I made my changes before Christmas. I had to change. It wasn't working for me. It was time to do something different. It always comes off the back of some sort of pain or suffering. And this is where it's a massive shift in consciousness that needs to take place first and foremost. Because normal people, if you were to explain, what I'm talking about to them just now, they would think I was off my nut. It's an awareness challenge. It's an awareness problem where people can only see from a very limited perspective. They buy the Daily Record or the Sun or the Star, and they sit in their fucking work vans, which I used to do, and you read the paper and you listen to the radio and you watch the news, and if you're really enlightened, you're a truther, so you can see the stuff that's been on with fucking, whether it's Epstein or and you know that they're fucking you over, but there's nothing you can do about it. There's not a single thing you can do. What are you going to do? Like overrun or overturn the governments and the armies? And that's never going to happen. So it's a massive shift in awareness that needs to take place. It's also a massive, change in terms of education that needs to take place, and to really see what's going on within the world. And then once you understand that, then it's the intention as to how you make it better. And again, that's very difficult coming from the lower levels. That's very different coming from the third dimension in terms of I'm a human being, I'm working 45 hours a week, I'm paying my taxes, I'm saving up to go, if I'm lucky, one holiday a year, in that survival state and in stress all the time, try to keep a roof over your head. Very, very difficult to then go and how do you change the world? Again, the suppression that we face every single day, just with the taxes, is enough that you have no time or energy for anything else. So The way to do it, and the only way that I can really to see how we do it, is by changing, the individual first. The quantum shifts that need to take place need to happen within you first. They need to take place as they did with me. You need to get to a place where you start to see things from a different level of consciousness. And once you get it for you, and you master the self, then you can start to change your immediate environment, so you can influence perhaps your family, maybe not, maybe if they're at a certain age and they've got their own belief system, then good luck with that, but changing the environment that you're in, and then eventually we can then feed that into changing the systems, and then we take that out to the world. But it absolutely starts with changing me. It starts with, it's an inside job. It's a self-discovery job, and discovering the truth. And the realisation of the truth as to who you are as a human being, and the power that you carry inside you. That's the way that we create this new reality. And that's really what this has been about for me, this whole phase. The holistic cleanse and the work that I've been doing. And the benefits that are coming through it now, in terms of how clear I am in terms of what I would like to do with this. How clear I am in terms of where I would like to take this. Even sitting yesterday, and it's happening every single day just now, but even yesterday, I've been watching loads of Joe Dispenza again. I did Joe Dispenza's online progressive course in 2016, and I bought it again. I repurchased it again just before Christmas, and watching and listening to the literal miracles that the man is creating with his work. He talks about how at a workshop last year there was 5 people got up and walked out a wheelchair for the first time, how people are actually seeing for the first time. Miraculous events are taking place every single time he puts a group together, and it's scientifically documented. People that are healing from stage 4 cancers, people that are healing from ALS, people that are healing from any disease you can name or imagine. When people are going inside and learning how the physical body works, and learning how to switch off the nervous system, and learning the negative effects that stress is having on your body, and then fantastic and well done to him, learning and then evidence backed, whether sitting in meditation, and you can actually see whether it's in the blood or whether it's in the scans of the brain, the MRIs, they've done MRIs in different parts of the body, and you can actually see in real time what happens when somebody goes into meditation, and they stop going from that flight and fight response, in that chronic stress state, where they're in survival, and again you've got no energy to do anything in that state. And when you're actually able to switch that off, and you bring the body back into balance, and then even beyond that, you get into your heart, and you find coherence within your heart, and you link that into coherence within the brain, then at that point, literally changing, the whole world changes, but literally like changing and becoming a new human being with a whole new different way of doing it in this world. Quantum shifts that are taking place and literal miracles are taking place. And I was watching him yesterday, and I was thinking about it last night, and watching his audience and seeing what he does for people. I would say probably the high percentage, I don't know what the number is, but the high percentage of people that are there to learn how to heal some sort of disease. There's 820 testimonials online. You just need to watch it. Every time I watch it, I break into tears, because there's somebody standing up there speaking their truth and talking about their journey with ill health and disease, going through all the different treatments, whether it's chemotherapy, radiotherapy, the operations, bits getting cut out of their body, almost losing their life, and then at some point they come across his work. And then they go inside and they learn the tools and the techniques, and they learn how to get into meditation, and they learn how to leave themselves behind, and how to become the unified field of infinite intelligence, the consciousness. And they understand the relationship with that. And when they become it, that's when the miraculous takes place. They literally get an upgrade and a download from the field that it takes away the dis-ease in a moment. And the cancer is no longer there, and the sight has been returned, and they're getting up and walking for the first time in their lives. So you're talking about literal miracles, so you're literally creating from the field of consciousness. And watching him last night, and I'm like, that's really what he does. He's teaching people how to heal through meditation, giving them the information, giving them the education, explaining what's going to happen. And the easy bit now is because there's so many people that have been through that process, so it's becoming normal within his community where people are actually getting it and they're expecting it to happen. So at that point, the whole world changes. And I'm sitting last night about to do a class online, the Sunday service for my community. I'm going, what is it that I actually do? Because the bit that he takes people to, That's the bit that I know. I teach the art of intentional living, having success, like having true success, being happy, being joyful, which involves managing your nervous system, which involves like switching off your stress, which involves getting out your head and reconnecting back into your heart. The plan is to experience enlightenment, to be in that aligned state, as above, so below, to allow that well-being to flow through you so that you feel how you're able to feel and how you're supposed to feel. And I know because of my own experience that miracles literally take place. That's what happens to me. I experienced a miracle, and the miracle is just the direct experience of the divine. God's a word that I'm trying not to use, but that's the common term for it. To experience the divine, to experience God. And the realisation last night, I was like, that's really what I do with this work, is to give people an understanding and then stepping stones as to the real truth as to what they carry inside of them. That's what I discovered for myself, and that's what this has always been about for me. And over the last couple of years, I've not lost it. In fact, I became more open about it and talking about it, definitely in a different way, in a more open way. But the realisation last night is that that's the most important thing that anybody can do, because when you tap into that field of infinite intelligence, the miraculous takes place. When you tap into that source energy that some people call God, then there's nothing in this world that can replace it. I believe that should be in fact, it is the number one reason that we're here, is to try and discover that at some point during these, who knows how many lifetimes we get to discover it. But the understanding now of what I've created in this last probably 7 or 8 week phase, by changing myself, by going inside, by, you talk about no stone unturned. The diet has been impeccable for the last 7 or 8 weeks. It's quite funny watching people going through Christmas and just the usual, the 12 days of Christmas, the feast, just gorging themselves and eating complete shite for that time when your body's meant to be recovering. And how many of them are sick just now is fascinating. But for that whole period for me, getting into like I think this is the 8th week now, we're just about to start. The diet was impeccable, but also every single other area. So the learning has been incredible again, like getting on about Joe Dispenza, getting on about Bruce Lipton, picking up some of the books again, like going on a journey of discovery again, going on a journey of learning again. That's been a huge part of it. Movement's been a huge part, something I've been doing for a long time. I've been Tai Chi and Qigong. That's been every single day for many, many months now. It's been on and off over the years. I trained in martial arts, and Qigong for me and Tai Chi are both martial arts, and the minute you can close your eyes and you start to, feel the energy, and as I'm getting older, the intention was to start moving again and to start to get my chi and my ki flowing again, back to, the way that as optimal as I can make it. So to make that a decision and to bring it into my life every single day, I can't tell you the benefits I'm feeling from that. All the pain and inflammation is completely gone. For the last probably 4 or 5 years since I trained with Wim Hof, the minute it was cold at all outside, all of my fingers would go completely white. Didn't need to be cold exposure, but the minute I had cold air outside, even sometimes in summertime, my finger would get white, or my fingers would get white, and they would go completely numb. And since the last probably 7 or 8 weeks since I started this, with Qigong and Tai Chi, just getting the energy flowing within my body again, then it's completely disappeared. I've been outside in -5 and -6, cold exposure, in the cold shower, coming inside, and I am feeling the cold, but the energy's been restored back into my body again. So again, bringing that in every single day, hitting it from every single angle, between the movement, between the diet, between the learning, between, the meditation, which has been... It's been 2:30, 3 o'clock almost every single morning, so I'm getting probably 3-4 hours during the night, almost during the holidays certainly, but even now when I'm back into work again, during the night, sitting in that meditative state, the things that I've learned from Joe Dispenza this time around, just absolutely incredible. In fact, my wife and I are actually going to go and see him later on in the year, which is just fantastic. One of the regrets that I have, or I've had in the past, is like some of the teachers I never got to see. Some of my greatest teachers, a man called Jim McFadyen was one of them. I never got a chance to work with him. Dr. Hawkins was the same, Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force. Never had an opportunity to work with him, and the amount of years now that I've kind of dipped in and out of Joe Dispenza's work, even just to go and be in the presence of the man, and in some way, pay homage and thank him for everything that he's doing, and the lessons that I'm getting just now, in terms of the area of science and understanding, and you know, the language that he's using, Bruce Lipton as well, you know, talking about epigenetics and how that all goes together, the impact that we have, you know, just the way that you think, you know, so you need to become aware. And eventually, as I am just now, I'm completely steadfast, so I never ever slip. Every single waking and sleeping thought that I'm having is geared towards generating the chemistry within my body that's healing my body on every level. You know, and those feelings, the feelings of love and the feelings of being grateful and the feelings of appreciation and the feelings of joy, simply by feeling like that all the time, I can't tell you the energy that's going through my body just now. I'm literally vibrating. There's been at least half a dozen times where I've been driving along and I've blissed out almost as much as I've ever done in meditation. And the world just completely stops and you enter this space, this moment, this eternal moment where it doesn't matter what you could add to it, it can't get any better. And the joy that I'm feeling and the way my heart has been opening up, a lot of that's to do with what I've been learning from Joe Dispenza. I've been relearning and through direct experience, and I think it's because of the shift that's going on as well just now, you know, really kind of reevaluating the stuff that I'm teaching and the way that I'm sharing it and how I'm able to pass it on to other people so that they can get it as well. And it's actually dead simple. The only thing you need to do is to become the field. The only thing you need to do is to shut the fuck up, stop being you, and become that unified field of infinite intelligence, and that's where the miracles take place. Now, that's really simple, but it's no easy for many, many people. Number one, because the nervous system is switched on. Number one, because you're under chronic stress, because the trauma is trapped within the body, because the life experience and what you've been through, for the day you were born, we carry that with us. And that becomes your reality. That's what he's teaching. Your personality becomes your personal reality. That's a literal fact. So then the change that needs to take place, how do you do that? And I believe that I do a lot of that already within the program and what I teach, but this is never ending. You never stop learning. It's always expanding. You know, so for me now to go in and learn that from a different way that I learned it in 2016 and then revisit it and go, right, okay, so what else can I add in my language? The information that he's created, the results that he's generating from the scientific studies, they're public knowledge that anybody can use them, and it's for the greatest good. So what he's doing and what he's saying and what they're understanding and learning with these tests that are doing with people in these real life situations that I don't have the ability to do. When I take people into meditation, I know what's happening. I can almost see it. I'm getting the feedback from our group every single day, but when you understand the science behind it, and you've then got the testimonials and the evidence of people standing up and going, you know what, here is where I was and this is what I did. At that point, you don't really need to know that much about it, but it definitely helps. You need to know what it is you're doing and the reasons for doing it and how it's impacting you. The science behind it, as he says, it's a common language, it's a common ground that people can basically jump in and have the discussions. When you talk about spirituality, you talk about God, you know, when you start to bring in belief systems and your experience, which is different from somebody else, science is a language that's a common ground. So, you know, well done to him, and very excited to see him later on in the year. You know, so me creating my own reality, me changing, me expanding, you know, this new wave that's coming through just now, it's been a fantastic process. It's been a really kind of, it's the encouragement that I'm receiving on a daily basis in terms of the inspiration I'm receiving, the experiences that I'm getting in meditation, that when I'm sitting in the groups, as I was this morning, sitting with the group, and then last night as well, with a session last night within the Vortex, the community, of another new spin-off that's came through the last 7 or 8 weeks. I mean, you're sitting with these people with the goodness in their heart and with the training that they've received over the last couple of years, and with their pure intention to go and fulfill their potential, which is what this is all about. You know, how do you get to the end of your life and you realise you get every single thing you came here to get? How do you fulfill your potential? True success, not just the fucking money, not just the stuff. If you get to the end of the life and that's it, that to me is going to be a failure. I know people that have got everything, and their missus normally hates them, their wife doesn't know them. You know, that their kids don't know them, that they're in this like bubble of like trying to reach this illusionary goal of becoming successful and getting the stuff. And all that money, the Beatles said, money can't buy you love. And Zig Ziglar said it'll buy you a house, but it won't buy you a home. You know, it'll buy you a bed, but it won't buy you a good night's sleep. You know, you can't buy peace of mind. You know, so being in that constant state of stress, being in that constant state of striving, and trying to get to a place that they've been sold, the illusion they've been sold in terms of what success is, it needs to be more than that. You know, enlightenment for me is true success. Having everything along the way, the abundance that you need to enjoy this world, which is freedom. Having the abundance to do what you want, when you want, with whomever you want, that's the real system, that's the real program that you should be working towards, so that you can benefit, and when you benefit, and you do it from this place of alignment, this place of being awake and aware, and actually knowing the true self, then everybody gets to benefit. You know, so for me, I've been speaking a lot about like full God, and in the past, when I've been really on that spiritual journey, I go full God. So every single thing that I do is devotional and devoted to the divine, working for God. And I'm a human being, and I'm here for a human experience. And every single time in the past, that gets way out of whack. I go full God, and then I go probably half God and half Jim. And yesterday, sitting in meditation, I realised that the real thing is to become full Jim. This incarnation of me, to fulfill my potential and to like honour the human being that I'm here to become, which is absolutely, obviously still part of the spiritual journey, but at the same time it's a human being side of me as well. And the inspiration that's coming through this work, and the revolution that is taking place within the Vortex just now and within the world just now, at this point in time, it's an invitation. This is an invitation for anybody who's called to this work, anybody who knows that there's something greater than the life experience they're living, anybody who's in a position they would rather not be in, anybody who's suffering, anybody who's in dis-ease, anybody who's broken, anybody who's decimated. You need to know there is a different way of doing it. There's a different way of living and being. And for me, and this is where this work, I do believe, the benefits to it is it happens so fast. It can happen in one session. It can happen in one moment. You gave me 2 or 3 hours with anybody. It doesn't matter where they are. And I've seen this so many times now, I can say it as a truth in my hand and my heart. You give me anybody that comes in and we switch off their stress and we get them out of their head and we reconnect them back into their heart and back into their soul, and we help them remember how they're meant to feel. We help them remember what it feels like to be easy. They help me remember what it feels like to be happy again. When's the last time you were happy? And then from there, joy and appreciation, and then the feelings of love, that sacred vibration when you get into your heart and you can't think but you can only feel, and you feel those feelings of unconditional love. And at that point, the truth is, that divinity that you're feeling inside you, that divine power that you carry inside you, that's connected to the field. And beyond that, connected to the source, which is God. And when you tap into it through meditation, which is the only way you can get it, when you tap into it through meditation, you take on the power of it. So you take on the power of consciousness. Consciousness is everything there has ever been. Beyond time and space, beyond this reality, can't explain it, you can't see it, a field of nothingness that's got everything in it. And beyond that, the source that comes through, so God. And when you tap into that and you allow that power to come through you, you get into that flow state of inspiration. There's not a single thing in your life can go wrong ever again, and you start to live your life the way you were meant to live it. And from that point, that's how change can take place. When you're in that field, when you're inspired, when you're in spirit, when you're in that flow state and you're feeling so good that the only thing you want to do is to help other people and to pass on the way that you're feeling, that's where I'm at just now, then that's how we fix the world. And that's the revolution that needs to take place. So we're not talking about doing away with governments and taking things down, replacing them with people of a different vibration, people of a purer intention where everybody needs to benefit. This needs to be for the greatest good. Everybody needs to win. Can't it just be about them anymore? It needs to change because it's broken. And how we change it, I believe this is the only way to do it. It's done through spirituality. This is not about religion. Religion separates. Spirituality unites. At a certain level, as I discovered way back then, we are all one. That's why when I say brother and sister, I've experienced that unity consciousness where we are all one with the planet, with the trees, every single living sentient being. There's no separation. And we come from that place, we can get this place back to the way that it's meant to be. This should be heaven on earth. It should be heaven on earth, but it's not, because they've got control of it. And that's something that needs to change. So, the revolution is on. It's time for a change. It's time for a shift. There is no force within this. This is the power of the divine. The power of the divine coming through and providing the inspiration and the path as to how we get it back to the way that it's meant to be. That's what it's all about. And it shouldn't be hard. It should be really actually quite easy, because the system is like self-imploding on itself just now. It's coming down. It's in free fall. So now it's a case of just standing back with the popcorn, letting it implode within itself, because the divine order, the balance of yin and yang, the way nature, Mother Nature, the elements, it needs to find balance. It works on balance. It works on coherence. And it's very much out of balance just now. But in this year, perhaps in these times, certainly in my lifetime, I feel it's going to get back to a natural way of living and being, how it's meant to be. And at that point, I've always felt we're here to help light workers within this world just now, people that are working for the light, that are working for the divine. It's how we usher in a new age. how we then rebuild it and get it back towards the way that it's meant to be, how we pass it down to the children so that they can do it. They're the ones that are going to have to do this work, and the only way to do that is through, inspiration. It's through meditation, it's through the direct experience and the knowledge, the unit of knowledge of the power of the divine that you carry inside you, and at that point it becomes easy. So, the invitation to come and get on about it, if it's time for a change, if it's time for a shift, if you're ready to join the light, to stand up and to bring in this new age that's coming in. There's so many different ways you can get on about this. The programme is there, that's by invitation, send us a message and let me see who you are, let the team see who you are, what your intentions are, what you're here to do. The community is so powerful in so many different ways, so much goodness within that, so many teachers within this community that are going to help, usher in this new age. And then there's the events. I've got so many different events coming up this year. I'm back into the yoga barn in Glasgow. That starts a week tomorrow. It's at the 23rd. Need to check that. I think it's the 23rd. I'm back into Glasgow. I'm going to be back in Glasgow once a month. And then, the Vortex private groups, one-on-ones, depending on what it is. And there'll also be some events coming up here as well. This is going to be a year of massive change for me. There's a lot of stuff going on just now that I'm going to be becoming a lot more mobile. Going to be hitting the road a lot more and taking this work to the world. And excited for that in so many different ways, both myself and my wife. So only goodness. The intention, as always, is to bring in this light, bring in the answers and bring in the solutions so we can get the world back to the way that it's meant to be. And that's, for the greatest good and for all that is divine. And the divinity that you carry inside you, living from that place, knowing that divinity and coming from that, then we do it together. God bless. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out. Take it easy. And bye for now.